Hi everyone, this is Mindy Eggen and I'm excited to be back on the MFT YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to create a snowy scene for a holiday card. I'm going to be using the present time stamp set. It has this cute little snowman and actually quite a few of them, and there's a couple of trees on there. So I'm going to stamp onto some white cardstock that's Copic friendly. I'm first lining up the two trees and the snowman into my MISTI tool. And then I'm going to use the MFT Extreme Black ink to stamp my images. I really like the Extreme Black ink because it is Copic friendly, and I always get really nice crisp black results when I use this ink. So after I have these images stamped out, I'm going to work on my Copic coloring. I will have the colors I'm using listed at the top of the screen, starting with the trees. And because I like to have the darkest color at the top of the tree, I flip my paper and color upside down. So I have G28, G07, and YG06 for the three color combo that I like to use to color trees. I almost always start with my darkest color and then blend out with my mid-tone and then into my highlight color. I will use this same color combination on my little tree as well. I'm going to use this same color combination to color the bow on my present that the snowman is holding. So I'm sticking with pretty traditional colors when it comes to Christmas, using the red and greens. I will be coloring the scarf in a red color combination. And those colors that I'll be using is RV29, RV14, and RV13, which is one of my favorite red color combinations. And I usually keep these set of markers off on the side because I do kind of bring them back in for other items on my scene as well. For my tree trunk, I have E37, E35, and E33. A dab of YR68 for the nose. And then bringing back that red, I thought about making my present a different color, but I thought it may be just easiest to keep it with the same colors I was using already for the scarf. Now I know coloring snowman can be pretty tricky because snowmen are typically white, but there are still shadow areas. And in one of my son's coloring books, I noticed their shadows were like a light purple. So I decided to bring that color combination into my snowman here today. And that is BV02, BV00, and BV000. Then I'm going to line up the coordinating dies, hold them in place with some Post-it tape, and run those through my die cut machine. I'm going to die cut a couple elements for my card using the stitched Slimline snowdrifts. You can use any of the smaller snowdrifts that are available through MFT. I just happen to have these handy, so I'm using the Slimline ones, and I'm cutting two hills so that they will layer on top of each other. So I'm using that first one as a guide because I want this second one to be a little bit higher up. And I just kind of line them up, figure out where exactly I am going to place my images. I do trim a little bit off of that front one just so I have a bigger snowdrift in the back. And now I'm going to work on my ink blending for my snowy sky. So I have chipped sapphire, blueprint sketch, and speckled egg distress oxide ink. I'm going to use a foam blending tool to do my ink blending, and this is a new blending tool. I hadn't broken my speckled egg yet, so this is a brand new one. I do like to use the foam blending tools when I'm going to be covering a lot of ground. So a lot of my background is the ink blending, and I just get a lot better coverage. I don't have to worry about anything fading off into white. And I'll bring in my snowdrifts every now and then just to make sure that my lightest color is high enough. Then I can come in with the blueprint sketch, and I like to go all the way to the top and layer my inks up. Then I switched over to the chipped sapphire, so I will have kind of an ombre effect going from darkest to lightest, and going back and forth in between the colors to help give this a seamless blend. Once that's done, I'm going to take just some clean water, some clear water in a spray bottle, and I'm going to spritz my background and then dab it with a paper towel. Now, if you only kind of partially press the button on your spritz bottle, you'll get bigger spots on your background. So depending what you like, you can give it a full spritz, which gives it a nice fine mist, or just kind of half pressing it, and that'll give you the bigger spots. Now to add a little bit of sparkle to the background, I'm going to take some Perfect Pearls, and this is just in the color Perfect Pearls, mix it with a little bit of water using a paintbrush, and then I can just tap the paintbrush and flick this all over my background. It kind of blends in together with the speckled background that I already have, but it does add a little bit of shimmer to that. I'm going to give this just a few minutes to dry. And then for my sentiment, I'm going to use the Sending Christmas Joy die, which I know has been super popular, but I only want the word joy. And I die cut that out of some red cardstock that's going to fit at the top of my card. And I have a little oops in here that I kept in the video, and I'm going to show you how I fixed it. But in the meantime, I wanted to add a little skinny sentiment over the word joy. So I am using Peace, Love, and Paws stamp set for this little sentiment. I have a piece of black cardstock that I loaded in my Misty tool, prepped with an anti-static powder tool, and then I'm just stamping this sentiment in some Versamark ink. I could sprinkle on my white embossing powder, tapping off any of that excess. And then once my heat tool is nice and hot, which will help kind of minimize the warping if you let it warm up for a little bit, then I can melt that embossing powder. And I'm going to use my paper trimmer to trim out this skinny sentiment strip. I've really been liking this Fiskars paper trimmer to do these skinny ones when I want to trim sentiments down. I just feel like I can eyeball it better. So that's just my personal preference. Once I have that trimmed down, I kind of fiddle around with the design of my card or the layout of the card on how I want it to look before I attach anything. So I have the joy on the top, and I still kind of was debating exactly where that skinny strip was going to go, but I could start attaching the main portions of my card. So just using a tape runner, I'm attaching these snowdrifts. You could add a little bit of ink blending to the top of the snowdrifts if you wanted to. I left mine white. I did attach the trees with the tape runner and then popping up my cute little snowman with some foam squares. So I thought it would be a good idea to start with the O. I wanted to center the O on my card, and I'm just attaching that with the liquid glue, and this is where I messed up. So I have the Y there and then the J. And I'm not exactly sure how I went wrong, but it wasn't even. You could see the margins on each side are different, and I'm kind of a perfectionist. That bothers me, and I figured that out when I went to go add my little sentiment strip. So off screen, I went ahead and I trimmed this panel down. So I have just the edges that are trimmed. It's still 5.5, but the edges, I believe I cut that to 3 3/4. And then I could add my skinny sentiment strip with foam squares. So I just brought in a piece of white cardstock that's 4 1/4 by 5.5, and I'm going to add this panel that I trimmed down to the white cardstock, and that's going to leave white border on each side, not all the way around like I typically would do, and I was pleasantly surprised. I liked how this turned out with just the white border on each side. So things may not always go as planned, but there are ways to fix them. Now my purple there on my snowman was a little too dark, so I brought in an even lighter color, BV0000, to kind of blend that out just a little bit more. And that will finish up my card for today. So I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll give it a try. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.